Hello and welcome to Rain Francis Art. My name is Rain. Today we're going to do a little watercolor therapy with watercolor paints and a few acrylic paints. We're going to paint these holiday gnomes, so let's begin. If you'd like to follow along with today's painting, I'll let you know what supplies you'll need. You're going to need some watercolor paper. I use Strathmore watercolor paper. It's 140 pound, 9 by 12 inches, and I have it landscape. And what I've done is I've already transferred the stencil of my gnomes onto my canvas. And in the description below, I have a link that you can follow that shows you how to do that. It's very easy. And I also will leave you a link of the actual stencil. It's a PDF file that you can download and print if you'd like. So for paints, I always use my watercolor pan paints, or most of the time I use them. The brand is Pretty Excellent. I got this off Amazon. I love these paints. They're so vibrant, and I don't have the names of the colors. I did at one point, I think, cannot find them anymore. So I've done a swatch, and I think what I'm going to be doing is sticking to the greens and the reds today, because this is, you know, these are holiday gnomes, so we want to stick to the greens and the reds. Try to make this a nice cheerful holiday painting. As for brushes, I have my usual brushes. They're all round with one liner brush. Oops. I have a large round brush. It's worn down over the years, but it's probably either a number 8 or a number 10. I have a number 4 round brush, a number 2 round brush, and a number 4 liner brush. I'll be using probably all of these. Got a little dust on my page there. I have some acrylic paint too. These are dollar store acrylic paints. They're actually, the colors are called Christmas Red and Christmas Green. I just wanted red and green, but we've got Christmas Red and Christmas Green, so that's nice. I have some watercolor pencils. These are optional. I might use these just to outline my gnomes. For my acrylic paints, I have a palette. You could use any kind of dish. You don't need a specific palette. I just have some extra brushes that I'm going to be using for mixing paint, not for actually painting. And I have some water and some paper towels. And because this is an art therapy day, I have my Bob Ross playing cards. So I thought I'd shuffle these and pull out a card. And let's see what Bob Ross has to say. Give us some wisdom before we do our painting today. All right, let's see what Bob Ross has to say. Find freedom on this canvas. Yes, sir. Find freedom on this canvas. Just enjoy yourself. Forget your stresses. Forget all of your worries. Find freedom as you're painting. This is true art therapy. Thank you, Bob Ross. I'm going to keep that right next to me. Okay, well, I don't really have anything specific in mind, but what I'd like to do is paint the 2 hats, one red and one green. Probably put a little bit of, I might use a little bit of brown or yellow in the pom-pom and on the beards. The noses are probably going to be kind of a pinkish red color, and the boots will be a dark color, maybe black or blue. But for the most part, for the hats, I'm sticking to red and green. So why don't I start? And what I'm going to do is do a wet on wet technique. And all that means is that you take water and you put water where you want your paint to go, because watercolor paint does follow water. Before I start putting water down on my page, I'm just going to outline the gnomes' hats with my watercolor pencils. So I'm going to make, I think I'm going to make this guy's hat green. So all I'm doing is outlining. I have my washing machine going in the basement, and it's quite loud, so you might be hearing that. Can't really help that. Gotta do laundry. All right. A little green there. And I have a lighter green watercolor pencil, and I'm just going to outline the brim of his hat a lighter green. Okay. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm dropping things. And with my red watercolor pencil, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to outline the hat. It'll be easier for you to see, and for me to see actually. There we go. And I'm just going to grab my little pink watercolor pencil just to outline the brim of this guy's hat. All right. So I'm going to take my number 2 brush with a little bit of water, and I'm just going to put some water inside the green hat. I don't want to put a lot of water because I don't want pools of water, because it'll take a long time to dry. I do actually have my hair dryer handy, my little mini hair dryer that I keep in my studio so that I can dry things up if they need to dry. Okay, so I've got all my water inside that hat. Now I have to choose a color. And I think my color is going to be the 4th one from the end, and I believe that is a phthalo green. I'm pretty sure it's a phthalo green. So I'm going right into the pan, and I'm going to just dab in some water, some paint, that is. I'm sorry about the washing machine. It's so loud. I had to stop the video before because I guess I'm doing blankets, and I guess it got a little unbalanced, and it was like going boom, 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 boom. And I didn't want you guys to hear that on the video, because that's not very relaxing considering we're trying to, as Bob Ross says, find freedom on this canvas and relax. Don't want to hear big bangs in the background. Now this is just going to be a fun little painting today. I just wanted to do something for the holidays. Now my water is kind of drying up. I'm going to add a little more water, and I do have some green on my paintbrush. That's okay. And I'm just off camera dipping into that phthalo green. Oops, I got a little bit into the brim of the hat. That's okay. I'll just clean off my brush and pull that right off. There we go. Watercolor can be forgiving, and I like that. So I'm just going to let that dry. And for the brim of his hat, I'm going to choose a lighter green. It's probably going to be this one here. And I'm going to see after if that looks okay, because it might be a little bit too yellow for my taste. I'm going in and I'm putting some water in there for the wet on wet. I'm going to try to avoid going near the top of his hat for now so that nothing bleeds in. But even if it does, I really don't mind. I want to find my freedom here. So that's that light kind of yellowish green there. Just dabbing that in. I think this will work. Oh, I got some into his beard. You know what's happening. I'm distracted by the washing machine, and I'm having a hard time relaxing. So I'm going to have to go in and remove that because I do not want his beard to be green. But it's good that I'm making these little mistakes because I can show you how to fix them. There we go. Get all that green off of there. All right, so I'm going to let my greens dry, and I'm going to add some red to this fella's hat here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wet the inside of his hat with water for my wet on wet technique. And some of the red is blending from the watercolor pencil, and that's absolutely fine. I don't suggest you hold your water or your paints over your canvas. I'm just doing that to show you what I'm doing, because you see what just happened there? I dropped a little bit of water onto my canvas. I have a tiny little space here, so things get bumped easily. So just be careful there. I don't want you to get water all over your canvas. So now I have to choose a red, and I think I'm going to choose this orangey red here. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the seventh one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's this one here. Don't know what the name of the color is, so I'm just going to see how that works. The watercolor paint will follow the watercolor. Will follow the water, that is. And I can add a little bit more down here. There we go. I'm very distracted by that washing machine. I probably should have waited before starting this painting, but I just really wanted to start painting. But, you know, this isn't a professional art school that I'm running here. So this is kind of reality TV, Shea Rain. Everybody has to do laundry, right? Especially when you have pets. Dirty dogs and cats. I love my pets. All right, I'm just gonna add a little more water to blend it just slightly. And now for the brim, I'm going to be careful this time, and I'm not going to do wet on wet. I'm going to actually dip right into, let me see, I think I'm going to use this little purple color here, and I want to see how dark that is. I might add a little bit of white to it, because I certainly don't want it to be too purpley, because I want it to go well with the red. And my washing machine is finishing the spin cycle, so I can relax now. Isn't that silly? It shouldn't even bother me. But you know, I do have, I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and stress can hit me whenever it wants, for any reason it wants. I sometimes don't even understand where it's coming from. I could be sitting here and painting, and all of a sudden I'm feeling terrible anxiety. No clue where it comes from. That's what post-traumatic stress does. I've got just water on my paintbrush, and I'm pulling some of that purple off. I don't want it to be too dark. And I might layer this with some red and then some white. I'm going to see. I might start with the white. He kind of looks like those are his sunglasses, huh? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have a wet brush, and I'm going into my white color, and I'm loading up that brush with white. And I'm just going to blend some white into that little purple color. And before I go back into my white color, I have to rinse off my brush so that there's no purple going into the white. We can do layers here. Right now I'm blending, but if I want to do layers, I have to wait until that's completely dry before adding another layer. So let's just blend that for now, and then we can come back to it after. My gnome's hat, the green hat, is dry. So I'm going to go ahead and put another layer of that phthalo color green. It's this one here. I have a wet brush. And I'm just going around the edges. And I've got a wet brush and I'm going to blend. I don't want a solid color. Now you can do whatever you like. This is all for fun today. I'm just putting a little water on my brush so that we can blend it a little nicer. My page is starting to buckle a little bit already, and there isn't too much water on this. I'm just pulling the paint out, just with some water, just blending it a little bit. Alright, I've got a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm going right back into that phthalo green. I'm going to add a little bit to this side. I have to be careful because the gnome with the red hat is still a little wet, and I don't want to get my sleeve in there. So I'm just going around the edge, and I'm cleaning off my brush, and I'm putting a little water on it, and I'm going to blend that line of dark green because I don't want to see a line there. All right, now I'm going to go into that yellowish green that I had used before. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just adding a second layer of that. It's a little darker this time. The more layers you add, the darker or the more vibrant your colors are. For example, if you have a yellow and you add a couple of layers, the yellow is going to be much more vibrant. If you have a black and you add a couple of layers, the black is going to be a lot darker. I'm just blending. I haven't added any more color to my brush. I'm just blending. And I'm pulling some color from this side and bringing it over here. Now I'm going to add a little bit of color to the tip of my brush and just outline and put a little water on the tip of my brush and blend. Okay, and I just noticed a little something. I cleaned off my brush and I'm gonna go back into that phthalo green. I forgot a little corner here. of his hat. So I'm going to bring that color up a little bit. With a little water, pull that color out. I have snoring dogs in the background too. I've got lots of noises here today. I'm just adding a little bit more dark to this side. And just like before, blending it and softening the edge. There we go. All right. I love these little gnomes. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, what shall I work on next? I think I'm going to work on the red hat. Now, this is still wet down here, so I'm just going to work on the top of his hat. And I was using that orangey red color here. So I'm going to go back in with my wet brush and load up my brush again. And I'm basically doing the same thing I did with the green. I'm adding a second layer here. And then I'm going to soften it up with water and blend it. So I'm just blending with some water now. Putting some more water on my brush. I'm just blending like this because I don't want a solid color of red. You know, I want to have a little bit of a texture in there or some lighter areas. So I'm wiping it off with a clean brush. Because if I wanted to have solid colors, I would just use acrylic paints. I want it to be a little different. Okay, now I've noticed something else. Some of that phthalo green has bled down into this fella's rim here, the brim of his hat. So I've got a little water and I'm just blending. There, that's it. All right, now I have to tell you I'm not too happy with that purple. So I'm going to take maybe a darker red, maybe this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, the fourth from the left here. And I am going to fill in that entire brim that I did purple. I wanted it to sort of be a pinkish color, but I'm not crazy about that purple. So let's just cover that whole thing. I mean, you could choose whatever colors you want, of course. You could choose blues, orange, yellow, whatever you like. I like red and green because they're holiday colors. Maybe a little transparent purple will look nice under there. I'm going to see. I was going to have a painting day yesterday. I had everything set up to paint yesterday. And then out of the blue, I got a knock on my door. And it was the roofing company that came. Didn't even tell me they were coming, just showed up. So 6 hours of banging on my roof. I couldn't do any art videos yesterday, which was a shame because I was really, really looking forward to relaxing yesterday. And I'm the type of person who I can't relax when I know there's people in my house, strangers. They weren't in my house, but they were on top of my house, and it was hard for me to relax yesterday, so that added a little stress to my life. What I'm doing right now is I'm just going to blend over here. I want to blend the brim of his hat a little bit so that it's not just a big stark line. All right. Okay. I love these gnomes. So now I think I'm going to be working on, let's see, I'm going to work on the nose. And I want the nose to be kind of a reddish color. So I'm going to choose this red here. It's quite dark, but I'm going to use a lot of water, and I'm probably going to wipe some off because I don't want him to have a really dark red nose. I want it to be a light red. Now I'm going to take some clean water and just dab a little water in there and pull some of that off. All I'm doing is pulling it off and wiping it on a paper towel. There, that's it. I'm going to do the same thing with his nose. He's got a rounder nose. I'm just going to dip into that red. I've been using the same brush, by the way, the number 2 round brush. I haven't changed the brush. I might have to make his nose a little bigger here. There we go. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm cleaning off my brush, putting it into water, just dabbing a little water there, and pulling it off with a clean brush. And I'm blending a little because I don't want to have that stark line there. There we go. They're starting to take shape a little bit. Now, while the noses are drying, they're pretty much almost dry, but while they're drying, I'm going to work on the pom-poms. Now, for this guy's pom-pom here, I think I'm going to use this yellowish green lime color here. And I've got some black in there, so just off camera I'm going to clean that up because I don't want to get any black into my gnome's pom-pom. There we go. So I've got a wet brush into that paint, and I'm going to make a little bit of a pom-pom here. It almost looks like the same color as the brim of his hat. Actually, I really like that color. I might go over that, the brim here. Let's see what that does. Just adding a little more paint. I'm finding freedom on this canvas. I love Bob Ross. He died way too young. He gave so much to the world. Okay, I'm going to add a little water. And I'm doing the same thing, wiping off a little bit of that paint here and there, just so that it's not a full solid color. I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, that's good. Now I have to decide for the pom-pom for this fella here. And I think I will do the same thing as I did. I will take, I believe I was using this color for the brim of his hat. I'll do his pom-pom with that color. I'm making it a little, there we go. He's got a big pom-pom there. And I'm going to pull just a little bit of that off so it's not a solid color. There, that's good. I'm happy with that. So we're getting there. All right, I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so now I'm going to start working on the beards. The hats are dry, the noses are dry, so there shouldn't be any of this color that's going to bleed into the ear, into the beard. So what I'm going to do is this color here, this is a Payne's gray, that I know, so I'm going to use the Payne's gray. I've got my liner brush here, the number 4 liner brush, and I've wet it, and it really is, if you're going to invest in a liner brush, get a good quality one, because when you have a good quality one, it's like an ink pen. It works so, so well. So I'm just off camera wetting my liner brush, and I've got my Payne's gray here, and I'm just kind of loading up my brush a little bit, and I'm going to outline the beard. More or less outline it like that. And off camera, I'm just going right back in and getting some more paint. And I'm wetting my brush when needed. I'm trying to see my stencil here. You can do whatever you want with the beards. Just make sure that they go all the way down to the feet. Okay, now I've got a wet brush, and I'm going to soften up that edge with my wet liner brush. Because I really, really don't want to have a harsh edge there. These gnomes here have white beards, but I want it to show, you know, I don't want it to just be a stark outline like that, because I was going to say then it looks cartoonish, but this does look kind of cartoonish anyway. I'm going to grab my number 2 brush. It's clean, and I'm just going to wipe some of that gray off before it dries. And I don't mind moving it around a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use my number 2 brush to soften the edges. I'm going to see how that works. Because it's a little thicker than the liner brush. Yeah, that works better. So you see what I did? You can see the difference between the outline and this. Just softening up the edge so that it's not so much of an outline, but we still get the idea of where the beards end. Or the beard ends, I should say. And you can bring that gray in too, very, very lightly into the beard. He can have a gray beard. He might be at the gray beard stage instead of the white beard stage. It makes me think of Lord of the Rings and Gandalf the Grey turned into Gandalf the White. He wasn't a gnome, of course. He's a great wizard. I think that looks pretty neat. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, or try, because I'm at a weird angle here. Let's see if I can pull this off. That's working. Yeah, the number two brush works much better for the blending here. And you can add water anytime you feel you need it. I'm basically just dipping the tip of my brush into the water. I'm pulling all of that Payne's gray into his beard. So we're getting close to Christmas. I wonder if you celebrate Christmas. Some people don't. I celebrate the entire Yuletide season. It's a very festive month, December. For me it is anyway. I have many festive months. October is a big festive month for me. It's not only Halloween, but in Canada we have our Thanksgiving in October as well. So that's a big festive month for me. There we go. It's hard for me to see with the bright lights, but I think this is going to be okay. I might add, I can always take it off after, but I've put a little Payne's gray here. And I might just blend that into his beard in certain areas. Just to give it a little bit of interest. And I've got a little more Payne's gray on this side. And I'm going to add a lot of water. I'm going to fix this up a little here too. Now, while we're at it, his mouth is here, and he's got an open mouth. He's going, oh, or maybe he's singing. So I'm going to dip my brush, just the tip of my number 2 brush, into some black. I keep banging things, sorry about that. And I'm just going to outline his mouth. There, just like that. Let me wipe that off. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make his shoes black. So I'm going to dip into that black again and just outline his shoes. His 2 shoes are going to be black. I really don't want to get any black into that beard. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. I don't have much water on my brush because I don't want anything to bleed. Just trying to be careful here and follow my stencil outline. I'm just going to dip the tip of my brush into some water. All right. Now I think what I need to do is add a little more gray to his beard, but I'm going to wait till his shoes dry. And I'm going to work on the other gnome, okay? So again, I'm going to use that Payne's gray, and I'm going to use my number 2 brush instead of the liner brush this time. See how that works. All right, now to make my life a little easier so I don't keep banging things, I'm going to bring my water dish a little closer. And I'm going to be extremely careful here because I've got some water on my brush and I don't want to wet the other gnome. Now this requires some patience. See, I'm just dipping the tip. And I'm pulling that paint over and softening the edge as I go. When my other gnome is dry, I'm going to take a look and see how it looks. Because like I said, my lights are very bright. So I'm not sure if you're able to see the gray that I put on his beard. I'm just pulling some of that gray over, a little bit of water. I don't want it to be too dark. So I can pull some off at the same time. And I'm just going to work on his beard, the whole thing, doing the same thing, just softening up the edge and pulling that gray in, and wherever I feel it's too much, I'll just pull some off. It's funny, I wasn't even going to use any grays or blacks in this. You just, you change things as you go. As Bob Ross says, you find your freedom on the canvas. He also was very famous for saying, you know, this is your painting. You do what you want with it. It's your world, right? Down here. You know, the holidays used to stress me out a lot. I think it had to do, since we're doing art therapy today, you guys, whoever, if you watch my videos, you know that what you see is what you get with me. I'm very open and I talk from the heart, you know. And many years ago, I walked away from a very toxic family situation and I never looked back. And that was always a great source of stress for me. That family situation where it was almost forced upon you to attend every holiday. My dog is streaming. That's Raven, my Rottweiler, who is dreaming. So, yeah, in my former family, I suppose, it was, if you didn't show up, you were talked about, and that was told to you ahead of time. You're fair game if you don't show up, and that was the atmosphere in which I grew up. And I'm very empathic and I'm a sensitive, creative type, I suppose. And that was just not something I could handle, and it did cause me a lot of stress. And since I walked away from that situation and never looked back, my stress levels have gone down big time, but I still have that post-traumatic stress disorder that I deal with, and it tends to pop up during the holidays, even when I'm not really doing anything stressful. It's like residual stress memory or something like that in your brain or your body, that your body and your brain remembers all that stress you went through, and it's hard to deal with. You just have to sort of say to yourself, okay, I'm aware of what's going on in my body. I'm feeling anxiety and stress. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm putting a name on it. I know it's there, and I'm just gonna see how my body feels about it. And it eventually goes away, but sometimes it takes a while. I really like this guy's beard a lot. What I'm going to do is dip the tip of my brush into my black, and I'm going to put his smile on him. He's got kind of a crooked smile here. And I'm going to make his shoes black too. Just kind of giggling because my dog Raven, she's right by my side, and she's clicking her teeth together as she's sleeping. There. I like the way his shoes look better because it looks like they're really under the beard, whereas this one, it looks like they're over the beard, so I might try to go and fix that. So anyway, I hope you're not going to have a stressful holiday season with, when people get together. It can be stressful depending on the atmosphere of the family, I suppose. There. Okay, so I'm going to try to fix this here. I have a clean brush, and I'm going to wet the black. It's hard to get black off sometimes, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to wipe that off a little bit. It's hard because I put a lot of pigment down there, but I'm going to try. Okay, not too bad. I'll do the same with the other shoe here. Just wet it first, and then just keep pulling it off. Black is less forgiving than the other colors, but I suppose it is possible that you can get it off. Okay, great. So, clean brush into the Payne's gray with a lot of water. And I'm going to try to mix all that up together here. And bring some of that all the way up. And I'm going to pull it off a little bit as I go as well. Now I'm going to dip the tip of my brush into the Payne's gray. See what I'm doing? I'm just kind of outlining the bottom again. And I'm going to pull that up. Just going to soften that up a little bit there so it doesn't look like a big old line of gray. Let's see. So what I can do is I can take my brush, the tip of my brush, and just go in and add a little bit more black, but sort of under the beard this time instead of over it. Do you see what I mean? I'm kind of going under the little bits. I think that looks a lot better. I'm glad that I decided to fix that. There. I think that does look a lot better. Now I'm just going to pause for now because I have to stand up and look through my camera so I can see what it looks like. All right, so far so good, I think. I might add a little more Payne's gray here to this side and to the top here. But other than that, I think I'm happy with the beards. I still have to work on this fella. He's holding a bell. So, but I think I'm going to put a little bit more gray up here. So I'm just dipping the tip of my paintbrush into the Payne's gray again. And I'm just going to do this. Okay? And I'm pulling that out. And I'm going to try to blend it better. I have a wet brush. A little water just to soften up any hard edges there. Now let me take a look here. Okay, I'm happier with that. Let's see. Yeah, that works for me. Now I'm going to work on the bell here. I've got a clean brush. Actually, I think I'm going to use my liner brush for this one. Make sure it's nice and clean because I'm using a yellow color, okay? I'm going to use this yellow, but I'm going to use it off camera if you guys don't mind, all right? But before that, I'm going to go in. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to color this in with yellow. It'll give me a little more accuracy than the yellow paint. But I am still going to go in with my liner brush. I'm wetting it and I'm putting it into the yellow paint. And I'm going to mix all that up together and blend it well. It'll make it a nice, intense yellow color. I hope that there's no glare for you. I have glare from my perspective here, but I don't think you have glare from your perspective. I was hoping that I got that right with my lights. Now I've got him ringing a bell because every Thursday on my blog, which is rainfrancis.com or rainfrancisart.com, both are linking to the same blog right now, I have a weekly art date that I call Rain's Art and Dinner Date, or Thursday Art and Dinner Date with Rain. And the prompt this week is bells. So I thought I'd do some holiday gnomes, and one of them is holding a bell. So if you want to join in with that, feel free. It's a lot of fun. Okay. So I'm going to take this brown color here, which is this one, and I'm going to very, very gently add a little bit of outline to the bell. there's a little, the bell itself, right? It's brown. Going very gently here with my shaky hands. You see what I mean about the liner brush? It's like using an ink pen. That's great. I love the liner brush. Now with a very clean brush with a little bit of water on it, I'm just going to try to blend that slightly. I want the outline to show, but I don't want it to be too stark. I am going to leave the bell brown though. I think I'm going to go ahead and use my number 2 brush. That seemed to work well for the beard, so why don't I do that? Yeah, that works a little better. There, that looks good. And last but not least, we're going to give him a red mitten, the same color as his hat. If I remember correctly, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it was this one. I've got my number 2 brush here. So I guess I really only used the number 2 brush and the liner brush for this painting. There. I think that's it. I'm just going to see if I want to do any finishing touches, but I think I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, I'm going to let that dry a little bit and do one last finishing touch. My gnomes are all dry, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little paper towel and I'm going to cover them just for now so that I don't get any paint on them. And I'm going to put a little bit of red and a little bit of that green acrylic onto my palette. Now don't do this. Don't do it over your palette, over your canvas, okay? I don't want you to ruin your painting. But I know mine is dry and I'm being really careful. So a little green. You don't need much. And what I'm going to do is, remember I had those 2 extra paintbrushes? I'm just dipping them in water and adding water. And I'm going to mix those up, okay? I want it to be kind of runny. That looks all right. I'll wet my brush. And I'll mix up the green with my other brush, actually, because I don't want to get any red in there. Yeah, I think that could... I might need to put a little more green in there, actually. It's not, it's a little too watery for me. Just a little more green in there. Okay, that looks fine. So watch what I'm going to do. I have my number 2 brush and it's clean. And I'm going to do little splatters. But I don't want to get any splatters on my gnomes. So I'm going to just splatter around them for now. I'm going to grab just a clean brush or a pencil, and we're going to do this to make splatter. Okay, I'll start with the red. And I've just loaded up my brush, but I'm going to tap it to get excess off, okay? So let's see. Yeah, that looks good. And if you move your brush while you're hitting it, you're going to get those little lines. So that's up to you if you want that or not. Okay, And I'm going to move this around. I'm dipping that in again, tapping any excess off so I don't have any big blobs of, like that of paint. Oh, that's okay. This is for fun. I want it to look festive, you know. What I could do though, while it's wet, is I could just try to get some of that off with my paper towel. Stick that in the water and try to wipe some of that off. Or it could be part of the background. Yes, that's what I'm calling it, part of the background. Find freedom. Find freedom in your canvas. Do whatever you want. Have fun. All right. Now, I am going to do the green on this side, but this has to dry first. So I've got my hair dryer and I'm going to dry that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my liner brush, because I can't really splatter in between the little gnomes because I might get the splatter on them. I'm going to just gently put a few little dots around them. Doesn't really look like splatter, but I don't want it to be, you know, stark white in between. What I might do actually is take some of that red, and that's a solid color now. There's no water in it, so maybe I could do it that way and it might look a little nicer. Now I need a steady hand for this. I think that's working. And I might do that kind of all the way around them, you know, where I can't get the splatter close enough. And I'll do the same with the green when the time comes. Okay, and I'm going to actually splatter green down here. So let me just clean off all of these brushes so that I'm all ready to go. And you know, the acrylic dries very fast. So this is all dry. What I'm going to do is put my paper towel on top here. And I'm going to put green splatters all here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm into that green that has water in it. Tapping off the big pieces there. And away I go. I need a little more paint. Sometimes I use a toothbrush for this. I like that effect too. And I'm going to put a little bit of green up here. All right. That looks kind of cute. And I'm going to take my liner brush and do the same thing. Just grab a little bit of that green that doesn't have water in it and dip the tip of my liner brush, I've cleaned it off, into the green, and with a very steady hand just put in some green dots. This is just me making it a little bit decorative. You don't have to put these dots in at all. You don't even have to use splatter if you don't want to. I just like having a background. And I'll bring some of the dots down so that it doesn't look like it's just dots around them. Okay, I think I'm done. I think I'm happy with this. What do you guys think? I hope you had fun today, and I really hope that you enjoyed this, my friends. Please leave me a comment. I'd like to know what you have to say. What colors did you paint your gnomes today? I love your comments, and I do reply to all of them. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time on Rain Francis Art. Bye.